virus. Is it living or non-living? We'll get to know more, but before that, please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more amazing biology content. Viruses are a biological puzzle because they exist on the boundary between living and non-living organisms. They don't work the same way as many cellular living organisms do. They lack organelles or any mechanism that would allow it to accomplish anything other than infect a specific cell. And their body is nothing but a shell of genetic material. But they can infect and manipulate the machinery of the host cell to multiply or replicate. So, are viruses living or non-living? A virus is a microscopic entity that contains its genetic material, either DNA or RNA, inside a capsid, a protein-based protective shell. This capsid can come in a few different structures. The capsid of some viruses is protected by an envelope. It may be spiky due to the presence of various proteins on it. These proteins allow viruses to bind to host cells and enter them. Viruses are incredibly varied. Some have RNA, mostly plants, as a genetic material, while others have DNA. They can infect almost everything from the littlest bacteria to the largest multicellular organisms. They do, however, share some similarities even with their diversity. They have a diameter of less than 200 nanometers, making them hundreds of times smaller than most bacteria. This means they can only be seen with an electron microscope rather than a light microscope. What defines living? Regardless of the fact that biology is the study of life, biologists do not have a perfect definition of what life is. Scientists have proposed several definitions, none have gained widespread acceptance. Rather than defining the term, textbooks list characteristics that life has. The basic unit of life, most frequently thought so, is the cell, which serves as a container for biochemical activity. Others are growth, reproduction, adaptability, and metabolism, a process by which your body converts food into energy. Some of the scientists believe a virus isn't alive, just because it can't multiply or replicate without stealing its host cell's reproduction machinery. You may argue that all parasites simply cannot exist without a host because parasitic bacteria like Rickettsia are recognized living despite their failure to live without one. So are viruses. Alive or non-alive? When viruses were originally identified, it was widely assumed that they were physiologically alive, because it behaved and caused disease in the same way that bacteria do, yet it was considerably smaller in size. But when scientists crystallized the tobacco mosaic virus in 1935, it was revealed that the virus lacked the metabolic pathways needed to function. So, scientists came to believe that viruses are simply DNA or RNA encased in a protein shell and are more complex biochemical mechanism than living organisms. Looking at how a virus works could provide answers. Viruses exist in two states, dormant and active. When a virus is not in contact with a suitable host, it is completely inactive or dormant. During this time, no internal biological activities occur within the virus, and the virus is effectively nothing more than a static organic particle. In this state, a virus is referred to as a virions, and they can remain dormant for long periods of time, patiently waiting to make contact with the appropriate host. But when a virion comes into contact with a suitable host, it becomes active and is referred to as a virus. Viruses have evolved receptors on their surfaces that match those of their ideal target cell, allowing them the ability to multiply or replicate. What is the final answer? Viruses are intermediate between supramolecular complexes and extremely simple biological entities. They have some of the structures and behaviors found in organic life, such as a genome and its own limited biochemical machinery, but they lack many others, such as the machinery to reproduce and produce energy. Viruses are present in virtually all biomolecular aspects of life. One could conclude that viruses are simply non-living parasites of living metabolic systems. However, a spectrum may exist between what is undoubtedly alive and what is not. But for now, the answer totally depends upon your definition of life. How do you define life? Tell us in comments section down below. What do you think virus is, living or non-living?